Toothless, Scene 1, Part 3. Curley had recovered from the strange, chilling sensation, but his mustache had practically exploded with discerning agitation. The cowboy security guard vigorously smashed down on his luscious mustachio as he struggled to make it presentable again.
I think, with all that's going on, I would have had a better chance at seeing something other than these hooligans,
the cowboy grumbled. He gave his mustache a final push, then licked his fingers and quickly curled the handlebars. He silently cursed that he did not remember to keep some mustache wax on hand for emergencies such as this. The security guard was left standing alone again. He stomped his feet, righted his white 10-gallon hat, and angrily pressed down his unruly mustache one more time.
"These people!"
he shouted as anger boiled over, causing him to lose the faux drawl.
"They come in my park after hours, breaking my rules, squishing bugs. That's it. I've had enough."
Curley alternated between fixing his hat and mustache as he stomped across the park. Exhaling hard, he marched forward, spurs jangling loudly with every step as he forced himself back into character. He moved purposefully, trying to find where the small, pale man had escaped and being sure to keep an eye out for more individuals conducting petty crimes. Curley. Perception. 2. Success. Normal DT.
What in tarnation?
The security guard's eyes widened in disbelief as his hand dropped from his hat. Surely the good Lord could not let this happen to his park. Yet, sure enough, there it was, a ghost chasing one of the vagrants that troubled his grounds. The garb of the vagrant being chased was easy to identify.
"I recognize her,"
he growled as the magician jumped behind a bush.
"That one's trouble."
Curley pulled the jack of spades out of his shirt pocket, then crumpled it in his fist. These people shouldn't be here. These ghosts shouldn't be here. None of this should be here disturbing his park. He watched the spirit float effortlessly across the ground despite its unnaturally stiff posture and felt conflicted. Vagrants were bad, but ghosts, maybe they were worse. Curley knew he needed to do something. Dang it! Bazaria cursed as Franklin sped past her to a distant bush. Bez gritted her teeth against the frustration of dealing with cowardly men. A good magician always has an extra trick up her sleeve, and Bazaria was a good magician. Not sure how to combat a ghost, she took a chance and acted swiftly. The Magi raced to the bush where Franklin hid and jumped in. As she jumped, she spun while reaching into her coat, then threw a knife at the apparition bearing down on her. Bazaria, throwing knives, versus Whisper, ethereal form. 3 versus 4. Bazaria fails. The knife flew harmlessly through the spectre as it pressed on in pursuit of the Magi. Bazaria rolled through the bush and quickly came to her feet. The spectre's long, icy fingers extended to grab the magician, but she was not done moving. She ran, following Franklin and his escape to the next bush. Albrecht stayed low and close to the base of the monument. He murmured quietly to himself regarding the system's management of actions and movement. He felt strongly that the moving along the monument's round foundation was simple, not complex. The system apparently had a low tolerance for any direction of travel that deviated even slightly from straight.
"All I am doing is running in a circle," he muttered. "I'm not changing directions or moving around anything. I mean, it's practically a straight line."
The movement mechanic was subtle. Albrecht surmised that nothing in the system moved without the player's movement. He also knew the system calculated straight-line movements differently than movements not involving a straight line, which, at times, Albrecht felt translated as an advantage for the system's characters' movements. The mortician shook his head and looked up at the statue he had run around. That featureless stone face was like the system, cold, unmoving, and apathetic to Albrecht's plight. Squinting, he could not help but wonder if this rock-hewn figure was missing its teeth. Looking away from the missing facial details, his gaze traveled down the tall statue to its foundation. Here, at the monument's large base, was an old, broken water fountain that encircled the statue. Water did not flow here, only a thick coat of slime and algae covering the bottom of the monument's foundation. Knowing the system would not acknowledge his grievance, Albrecht got back into character. An arm burst out from behind a bush several meters away. Albrecht looked quizzically at the arm, then Franklin's head popped out next to it. Albrecht waved back excitedly.
"I see it now,"
Franklin whispered loudly, then ducked back down. Only the top of his head could be seen peeking over the bush. Albrecht was elated.
"Wonderful!"
Albrecht Eisenberger was a man of science, but he was also a man of death. Enthusiastically, he used great arm and hand movements while quickly and quietly rattling random bits of knowledge regarding the whispers that haunted the park. The mortician also tried to warn Franklin that 2 whispers were haunting the park. Albrecht halted mid-explanation as a shudder rippled through his skin. He turned around and looked up. The excitement for Franklin's spiritual encounter was quickly shattered as the second whisper emerged through the statue, continuing its ethereal pursuit of the old man. Its bone-chilling moan raked deep past the mortician's skin as those long, frigid fingers attempted to grasp him again. Albrecht quickly calculated the movement of the apparition. Whisper, siphon, versus Albrecht, intelligent dodge. 4 versus 5. Albrecht succeeds. The mortician ducked and rolled to the side at the very last moment, letting the spirit float past as it grasped air. Recognizing the constant movement of his companions, Albrecht knew he only had seconds to act before the apparition would turn back on him. The apathetic statue caught his eye again, along with the familiar pull of his skin. He looked closer at the monument. Albrecht investigation. 2. Success. Easy DT. A deafening hum filled Albrecht's ears and mind. The monument became violently distorted for a split second, and the statue was gone. Yet, in nearly the same instant, it was back. The humming emptied from Albrecht's mind as background noises of the park once again filled his senses. Wide-eyed, Albrecht stood with open-mouthed confusion. It all happened so fast, the mortician was unsure of what he actually saw. The whisper was no longer grasping at air and slowly turned to face the mortician. Without further analyzing the situation, Albrecht followed the pull of his skin and jumped into the monument's algae-filled base. Muck and ooze covered the inside of the monument's base, and a rank odor emanated from the disturbed, grotesque film under his shoes. Poking partly out of the viscid water was a long rod. Albrecht heaved the heavy metal rod from its mucked confinement and realized it was a key for a manhole cover. The skin of his feet pulled taut with shifting movements, prompting the mortician to look down and see a slime-coated manhole cover underfoot. Whisper, siphon, versus Albrecht, intelligent dodge. 2 versus 3. Albrecht succeeds. The intensified moan of the spirit kept it from sneaking an attack on Albrecht. Deftly, the mortician moved aside again, jumping out of the base and swiftly escaping the ghost's grasp. However, the key's hook caught on the edge of the monument, jerking Albrecht nearly off his feet and back to its stone base.
"Guys!"
Albrecht yelled and waved his arms awkwardly, the key still hanging on the monument's edge.
"Over here! Over here! I found the key!"
No one responded to Albrecht's call. Instead, the mortician stood witness to an odd sight. Franklin, the medical examiner, burst from the bush he was hiding behind as if running away from Bazaria the mage. Bazaria desperately ran after Franklin, and close behind her was the first whisper in steady pursuit. All were focused on their individual actions, leaving only the ghost next to Albrecht acknowledging his presence. The mortician unhooked the key and ran out into the middle of the clearing. He waved and hollered for the attention of Franklin and Bazaria. The key was long, heavy, and unwieldy, making it difficult for the small mortician to run with. As Albrecht yelled and ran, the first whisper halted its pursuit of Bazaria and turned to him. Seeing that he now had both ghosts' attention, Albrecht quickly surmised his time for action was further reduced.
"Guys!"
Albrecht called breathlessly to his associates.
"I have the key! I know where to go! Follow me!"
Franklin and Bazaria acknowledged Albrecht's efforts this time and ran for the mortician. Upon seeing he had their attention, the mortician quickly turned and ran back to the monument. Whisper, Siphon versus Albrecht, intelligent dodge. 3 versus 6. Albrecht succeeds. The second Whisper's hand was grasping for Albrecht's face when he turned around. However, the mortician used the key's weight to quickly duck and slide under the deathly attack. Albrecht bounced up and kept running, with Franklin and Bazaria gaining from behind, both giving the spirits a wide berth. Albrecht scurried up the monument's base, dragging the key behind him. Franklin jumped in and helped the old men carry the key to the sewer cover. The mortician clumsily inserted the hook into the cover's latch, rotated it, and pulled hard. The lid did not move. Bazaria was now in the base by Albrecht's side, helping to pull on the key. Franklin was on Albrecht's other side, pulling desperately on the key as well. Teamwork roll. Bazaria, dexterity. Franklin, stamina. Albrecht, nimbleness. Teamwork succeeds. The solid round sewer lid popped up at the side as the thick sludge covering it was broken loose. Its old metal grated heavily as they heaved and dragged the covering away from the opening. Muck sloughed into the open hole while Albrecht attempted to reclaim the key, but its hook was stuck in the manhole cover. With the ghosts already at the pedestal, there was no time to release the key from the lid. Sludge and turbid fluid continued to lazily ooze and drop from the monument's base into the blackness of the sewer hole. The three companions looked at each other, not wanting to stay, but hesitant to jump into the unknown. Albrecht trusted the pull of his skin and jumped into the sewer hole first. Franklin shook his head and muttered at the miserable conditions before dropping in next. Bazaria quickly followed while holding onto her hat. One by one, they each disappeared into the darkness of the sewer. Curley stood several paces north of the disconcerting statue and watched as the pale old man yelled and waved while holding a long, heavy-looking rod. He also observed the circus lady and another troublemaker run around the park with a ghost in tow. His smoldering anger became mixed with perplexity as the three vagrants rushed in unison to the monument. He noted the two spirits followed in pursuit. The security guard frowned as he watched them desecrate the monument by tearing off a part of the base. Then, one by one, they quickly jumped into a hole they had made.
"Nobody gets away with this behavior in my park,"
Curley snarled. Forgetting about the ghosts, he rushed over to the monument and jumped in after the three vagrants. Curley landed in the sewer with a loud splash and quickly drew his 2 revolvers. The moon's faint light shone down from the hole above in an angled column, causing the remaining darkness of the sewers to feel thick and confined. Still, he could faintly make out the 3 dark silhouettes slowly moving into the sewers.
"Put 'em up,"
Curley commanded the petty criminals.
"Nobody move."
The silhouettes stopped moving.
"Somebody better start talking here soon,"
Curley growled angrily, forgetting his drawl.
"What are y'all doing in my park?"
"I'm here because of him," Bazaria cried out as she pointed to Albrecht.
"I thought you were a cowboy," mused Albrecht as he noticed the lack of southern accent. "Zip it."
Curley raised one of the pistols at Albrecht's silhouette. "Did you not see the bugs?" Franklin asked the security guard. "Or the spirits? Why did you follow us into the sewer if you didn't see anything?"
"I don't know what I saw,"
Curley snapped back, attempting to reestablish his southern drawl.
"But I know I saw the 3 of you run down here, and even though this is below ground, this is still part of my park."
"Why would you think we would run into the sewer willingly?" Franklin gestured. His contempt for the unsanitary conditions was easily felt through the dim light. "Good point," Bez chimed in nervously. Curley twisted his mouth as his mind fumbled with an appropriate retort.
"Well, you tell me,"
he slowly replied. "See previous comment." Franklin's voice was curt. "Did you not see the spirits or the bugs?"
"Last I checked, I'm the one asking the questions here,"
Curley said as he raised his other pistol, warning Franklin. The building tension amongst the group was sundered by a deathly moan. It was a sensation they all quickly recognized as they could hear it in the back of their minds and feel the ice quickly creep up their spines. Everyone was quiet for a moment. "Time to go," the Magi breathed, breaking the tense silence. Franklin spared a glance at the hole they had entered, then leaned in toward Curley, allowing the moonlight to shine on his face.
"You can stay here if you want, but I'm out of here."
The doctor turned and ran deeper into the sewers. Albrecht approached the cowboy security guard and rested a hand on the guard's arm. The mortician was easily a head shorter than Curley, but that did not seem to faze the old man to any degree. The contrasting moonlight made the small old man look paler than before.
"You can find them,"
he said with his strange, thick accent.
"But I need to find my teeth."
"I'm with them." Bazaria's voice came from behind the pale man, just outside the column of moonlight. I'm with Albrecht here. I'm sorry, but I can't stay." Albrecht and Bazaria turned around and quickly followed Franklin. As Bazaria went further into the sewer, she called back, "Feel free to hunt the ghost by yourself. Have fun with them." Curley saw the vagrant silhouettes quickly blend in with the darkness as they escaped. The cowboy twirled his pistols and holstered them, then nodded with self-affirmation. Even though these vagrants did not leave through an authorized exit, Curley still made them leave the park, and that meant a job well done. His mustache began to bristle with agitation as the eerie sensations and ghostly moans suddenly grew closer. Curley remained motionless, like a deer caught in a pair of unseen headlights. He slowly looked up at the manhole opening behind him. A long string of slime fell from the sewage entrance while two pairs of black, abysmal eyes stared down through the hole. One ghost extended its long, icy finger and wailed intensely at the security guard. Curley looked away from the opening, took a few steps forward, and puffed up his chest.
"I better make sure those vagrants stay out of my park,"
Curley muttered to himself, refusing to recognize the haunting above. Without looking back, the cowboy security guard straightened his belt and hat, pressed down his mustache, then purposefully moved deeper into the sewers, following after the three troublemakers that had disturbed his night in the park.